we have not yet talked about your take and my take on UFOs. Can you talk about that?
Yeah, briefly, they're not from, some planet like Zeta Reticuli. They are interdimensional. They are piloted and crafted and manufactured by the fallen angels. This is the coming great deception. The springboard for that deception is Darwinism, which basically tells us neo-Darwinists now are looking and they're saying, well, this just didn't happen. And they're embracing panspermia, the idea that we were seeded here by some higher civilization of aliens. I mean, Richard Dawkins, one of the premier evolutionists of the 21st century, when asked by Ben Stein, where do we come from? He points to panspermia. And so the neo-Darwinists are looking at that, realizing, oh, wait a minute, this thing just didn't happen. Did the oxyribonucleic double helix of life, the spiral of life, the DNA molecular structure is so complex that, it's a coding system. It just didn't spring into itself. And each thing that is on this planet, yes, there can be subtle mutations in that DNA, but elephant DNA will always produce an elephant. It's never going to produce a chimpanzee or a hummingbird. Ain't going to happen. I don't care how many millions of years you sit there and watch that. It's just going to elephant after elephant after elephant, because that coding is etched in stone. You can get small variations, but that elephant's going to keep coming out.
Yeah, right. On the UFO parade in McMinnville, there's a few speakers here, so I want to just read off their names and see if you know any of them. Dr. Lynn Kidde, Peter Down.
Yeah, Dr. Lynn Katai. I've actually interviewed her. She's from the Phoenix Lights. She talked about the Phoenix Lights. I've interviewed her. That interview is in our book, Further Evidence. She and I have spent, time on the phone talking and stuff, and we just agree to disagree. But that's okay.
Yeah. Peter Davenport, James.
Peter Davenport. Peter and I have talked several times on the phone.
Yeah.
Peter is a sort of a hub where the UFO reports come in, and he lists them on a weekly basis. And about last year, he was alarmed at the increase in sightings because they were well over 1,000 per month. And he was alarmed by that. So, yeah, I know both of those people.
Okay. James Clarkson, Jonathan Dover, Stanley Milford Jr., Clyde Lewis, Francis Barwood, Sue Watson. You know any of them?
No.
Okay, but the first two you did know. Okay, so my point is when you probably have a good relationship with those two and the other ones, a good personal relationship, but when people go listen to that, they get one perspective. And what perspective is that generally?
The perspective that they're going to get, that Lynn Katai and Peter Davenport will basically tell you that we are being visited by extraterrestrials from some planet. They may have seeded us here. They are our overlords on some level. They may have created the civilizations that we see in the past. They came with technology. They may have genetically manipulated early man, and now at this critical juncture in human history, they are back to usher the human race into a golden age. Now, that's what they say. And so we are at loggerheads. It's a disparity between ideology.
Yeah.
I'm calling it the coming great deception. So either I'm completely paranoid and crazy and dead wrong, or they are. Both of us can't be right. And I was invited, there's at the end of May, there's a huge UFO festival called Contact in the Desert. Well, I was invited to speak at that last year, but they withdrew the invitation.
Oh, yeah? And why is that? Just because they didn't like your perspective on it?
Absolutely. They never, ever have someone who will bring in the spiritual or so-called biblical viewpoint to the mix.
Right.
The reason why they won't do it is because it blows their whole deal right out of the water. They won't do it. They're afraid of it.
Okay.
They're afraid of me.
Yeah. Well, I think it's real important, when we're talking about any subject, let's just take, you were talking about Darwinism, that's taught in schools, but they won't teach creation. Because they call it separation of church and state, but it's like, well, what if the creation is the true thing and the Darwinism is the wrong thing? Where's the balance in, presenting the information? Yeah. And so what you have to say, what you bring to the table is real important. How do you think churches should handle this type of subject?
Well, I mean, here, I would challenge you to write a letter to your pastors, every church in your little town there, and say, here it is, we just had a UFO parade, and what is our response to this? Where do we stand in our faith? And what are you going to do if a mile-wide craft shows up over our town? How's that going to work?
Right.
What are you telling your people? How does this dovetail into the end time scenario? The churches are asleep, Veronica, for the most part. There's some of them are waking up, but excuse me, an overwhelming majority are dead and asleep.
Right.
And so they've lost their salt, they've lost their light, and they just go through the motions of the yearly calendar. This is what we do. Yawn, boring, and we teach, pop psychology. We barely open the Word. We have about 40 seconds or a minute's worth of prayer in the entire service, and that's it. Go home, pay your tithe, go home, have your pot roast dinner. And some people are fine with that. I think the vast majority of Americans are complacent, and that's okay.
Yeah.
But then there's other Christians that are going, there's got to be more than this.
There aren't too many outlets where you can hear in-depth spiritual issues alongside conservative politics, where we can make a difference to those around us and our country. It's brought to you at a cost that's worthwhile, yet I'd like to do more. On 11thhourpolitics.com, you can buy books and videos that will advance this cause. There's delicious chanterelle tea containing vitamin D, proven to dispel depression. We have an art gallery and options to produce your own commercial or have us do it for you, along with other projects. It's only through a co-op that things get accomplished. I hope you will join me in this mission.